Hello friends. Today I wanted to talk about the elemental associations of the minor arcana, particularly the wands and swords. Traditionally in the tarot, um, wands are fire, swords are air, cups are water, and pentacles are earth. And I've always thought that the associations of the wands and the swords were a little confusing. I've accepted that now that that's just the way it is. But when I was a young fledgling witch back in my teens and early 20s, there were pagan and occult authors that I was reading that some of them would talk about switching them around. Um, Wands would be air and swords would be fire. Not necessarily in the tarot, but in like ritual and practice. Um, and that always made sense to me. Um, to me, wands are like, like a wizard staff or something. They're used to, direct thought energy. They're used to project thoughts. And so for me that represents air, and swords are forceful and violent, and for me that represents fire. So I mean I think on a logical level, I mean that's really what makes the most sense. And I've always been curious as to why in the tarot these associations exist. Um, and it's not in every single tarot deck. It's not obvious in every single tarot deck, but the associations are generally in most tarot decks. There are a few where they swap them or the elements are different, but in most cases, wands are fire and swords are air. And I can show you a few cards. This is the Cosmic Tribe Tarot, and as you can see in the wands, it's all fire. That lion is pretty cool. So, you know, and and I get how. Well, let me show you a couple more. There's a couple in the well, where's the other one? I thought I had more cards here, but in the medieval Scapini, there, especially in the aces, you can see it. Um, Wands, fire, swords, air, and you can definitely see it. I don't have a physical copy of this deck, but I have the app. Yay for technology. The Robin Wood Tarot. I don't know if you can see that. There's the King of Wands, and he's very fiery, and all the courts are like that. Very, very distinctive. And you can see it in the swords too, with the clouds. So yeah, so I've pretty much accepted the fact that that's just the way it is. It doesn't really bother me when I'm reading, but I've just always wondered what the origin of that was, um, because I mean I just think it makes more sense to me that it would be the other way around. And there are a few, but not many decks that are like that. Um, I think a lot of people find it confusing because they're used to, the standard um, swords, air, and wands, fire, and that's totally fine. But I just always wondered why that is, what the origin of that was, um, and if anybody knows the history of this and how this came to be, please let me know. Please leave comments down below. I would greatly appreciate that. Um, but I do understand on some level. Um, I can rationalize it. I mean, wands can also be like torches, so that's definitely fire. And swords, I mean, you swing them through the air, and I can definitely see how that could be air. But I don't know. I'm just very curious about this. Has anyone else thought about this? Let me know. So I guess that's all for now. If you have any thoughts, if you have any information to share, please do. I'm very open to discussing these things. So thank you, and have a wonderful evening.